50. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Farzy Show. My name is Mark Farzetta, and this is the Farzy Show, presented by MyBookie, mybookie.ag. There you go. Switch over the audio there, Farzetta. Good hustle. First day on the job. Welcome in once again. Jalen Hurts, ladies and gentlemen. He broke some news yesterday. Now, this was more of a confirmation than it was anything that I think most people didn't already know. But it's good to hear it, and it was the first time we heard it yesterday, acknowledged by really anybody in the building. And I felt like, oh, okay. It's what I thought, and it's one of those things you just believe to be true until you hear it confirmed by a member of the Philadelphia Eagles, and Jalen Hurts did that yesterday. Now, that to me is the big story surrounding the Philadelphia Eagles and Jalen Hurts, what he said yesterday. So we'll get into that in a little bit. The other story that's going to be picked apart by people that are going to fall in this trap between now and the start of training camp is the invasion of the lists that are coming out between now and 6 weeks from now when the Eagles come back for training camp. Beware of the lists. I said this even last week. They even said this yesterday. And here it is. Phil Simms' son, who's a football analyst, I think. I don't know. I think his name is Kevin or something. I don't know. Anyway, Chris Simms put out his list. And Jalen Hurts is 10th. People, I have such a huge issue with two things. One, the ranking. Two, the understanding of what Jalen Hurts does at the quarterback position. And really, three, the unbelievable disrespect to somebody who's done the job. Everything else, and I've said this throughout really the offseason. I said this even during last season. People that make these lists often are playing fantasy football. The minute you throw in, well, if this guy had that, then this. Well, that's the if. So you're telling me a hypothetical here. You're telling me a fantasy, in essence. Jalen Hurts does it. He does it. Everybody else is trying very hard to do it. Jalen Hurts does it. And because Jalen Hurts has I'll say it, stacked offense, it's held against him because his job is so much easier. Well, how many stacked offenses have there been in the NFL where you've had guys go out there and underachieve or, choke in the big moment? So because Justin Herbert, for instance, doesn't have a stacked offense, we don't know if he'll wet the bed in an AFC championship game. We don't know if he'll wet the bed in multiple playoff games. We don't know that. Here's what I do know. Jalen Hurts was the quarterback of an offense that won in blowout fashion in the NFC championship game. And then, and then what happened? The Kansas City Chiefs took away his number one weapon offensively, and that was Saquon Barkley. So what did he have to do? Step up and be the MVP. Oh, and he did it. And a nice flex, by the way, yesterday from Jalen Hurts. And this is the part I'll tell you right out of the gate. Nice flex by Jalen Hurts yesterday when he said, well, you got to pick your poison. If you stop Saquon Barkley, you got to pick your poison. In other words, stop Saquon and try to stop me. Pick your poison. And also, how many other quarterbacks have already been to 2 Super Bowls, winning one of them? Oh, Jalen Hurts. Oh, and he did the first one. He made the first Super Bowl without Saquon Barkley. That's crazy how that happens, man. That's wild how that happens. That's amazing how that happens. So the game that Jalen Hurts is playing seems to be very much over the head of a lot of national football analysts and the guys that just want to play their version of fantasy football, which is exactly what Phil Simms' son is doing. So we'll get more into that, believe it or not, later in the show. The Philadelphia Phillies, so much for building off an 11-inning win the previous night, game 1 against the Cubs. Mick Abel, shortest start of his very young career. 4 innings, 3 runs, all by way of the long ball, solo homers. 2 of the 3 homers, I believe, he came out and struck out the guy right after, so there's that. He didn't get too rattled. But 89 pitches over 4 innings of work, not encouraging. The bullpen allowing 5 runs on top of that, not encouraging. Brandon Marsh, who, believe it or not, has been one of your hottest hitters in your lineup. Let's see. Bryce Harper, one of the hottest hitters in your lineup. It hurts. Brandon Marsh now, one of the hottest hitters in your lineup. Had to be taken out of the game early. And let me say this, as I said last night on Postcast. I in no way, shape, or form expect Brandon Marsh to like go on to hit 298 or 300, for the rest of the season. I don't expect that at all. But here's what we know right now. He was one of your hottest hitters in the lineup. And if he's hurt, that's just another guy. That is, this guy was actually doing something you're supposed to do, and now you're losing him. I don't care if his name is Brandon Marsh. I don't care if his name is Bryce Harper. I don't care if he's been a 5-time MVP. I don't care if he has just been called up after a terrible minor league career. If he's hot now, I'll use him. And Kyle Schwarber going ice cold. That's all bad timing. That's all very, very bad timing. And here's the other thing that I found amazing. I saw some people on social media last night talk about 4 runs. They scored 4 runs. They scored 4 runs in this game. 4 runs ain't 20. Why does 4 runs feel like 20 runs to people? Oh, it's because the Phillies have really had trouble scoring lately. That's why that feels so good to see 4 runs. 4 runs would have won the start for Ranger Suarez. 4 runs would have won the start for Christopher Sanchez. And 4 runs would have won the start for Zach Wheeler instead of squeaking out a win later in the game in extra innings. So, yeah, 4 runs feels like a boatload of runs all of a sudden. It shouldn't, because it's not. But we have lowered our bar so much with the Phillies and where we're impressed by them that 4 runs seems pretty impressive. But yesterday's game, very frustrating considering the long ball, very frustrating in terms of the little things. We'll get more into the specifics, but Taijuan Walker throws that 2-run home run to Ian Happ for his second home run of the game. And that ball is well in off the plate. And it's not a terrible pitch, but if it was it wasn't a terrible pitch, but it was a great swing. He made an adjustment and just pulled it down the line. That ball should have been 50 feet foul at least. And he turned on it and just belted it down the right field line. Little unlucky of a double play ball, not being able to turn into a double play ball right before that. Carlos Hernandez allowing runs to score, charged to Joe Ross. Tanner Banks did his job, but again, 5 runs charged to the bullpen. Not great. We also learned Aaron Nola. Look, I know nobody is excited. Nobody is sitting here going, well, this is happening because they don't have Aaron Nola. Nobody, so I get that. I'd still like a healthy Aaron Nola. I'd like to, not have to rely on a bullpen game. I'd much rather have an Aaron Nola in the stride of a 3.30 ERA, 3.50 ERA. Certainly not what he was doing before he went on the IL. But I'd much rather have that than a bullpen game, for instance. So now he's going to be missing at least another couple of weeks here. We're in a tough spot right now. Now lost 11 of 14. Okay. Not ideal. This Phillies team definitely has us all frustrated, and we'll get into a little bit more coming up. But I do want to get in and really start in on mandatory minicamp. A lot of great things. Heard a lot of great things from Saquon Barkley yesterday. Really loved what he had to say about his retirement. He was like, yeah, that kind of got picked up. The conversation he had with Chris Long on the Green Light podcast. He's like, I don't want to retire anytime soon. I was like, okay, just good to hear you say that. Thank you very much. Nick Sirianni talked about it, saying, yeah, no, if I'm coaching here, I'd love to have Saquon Barkley on my team. I don't see him at any point just hanging it up saying that's that. One of my favorite things that got said in all of yesterday was this team and the idea of them resting on their laurels and patting themselves on the back for last year's Super Bowl championship. Now, I like the way Nick Sirianni put this, and I really believe in it. This talks about the attitude of the Philadelphia Eagles all coming in for mandatory minicamp. The question was asked specifically about Saquon Barkley, about what you've seen from him as far as like a level of hunger coming in and preparedness to come into this season after such a historic year last year. Here's the way Nick Sirianni addressed the question about Saquon Barkley, and then he shifts it to talk about the rest of the team.
Such a huge load the way I visioned or saw him attack last offseason. That's what's great about this football team is you see the same humbleness and a hunger that I saw going into the last season, and that's, Saquon, that's all the players on this football team. They're working, and we've had a good offseason.
Keep being hungry. Humble, sure, that's fine. I like that. But, I mean, no, not at the expense of confidence, obviously. But humble enough that you still got to work. Something Nick Sirianni said at the owners' meetings that has really been rattling around in my brain since he said it, and it really, I think, is a good reflection of this attitude, the attitude of this team, which is now that you've gotten to where you want to be, now you really got to work hard. You might have worked really hard to get to this point, but guess what? Now everyone sees you on this pedestal, and all they want to do is knock you off that pedestal. That's all they want to do right now. So you think it was hard to get here. It's harder to stay here. It's one thing to get the job. It's another thing to stay at the job. And now the Eagles want to stay at the job of being the Super Bowl champions. They don't want to be fired from that position at the end of the year. And to hear a guy like Nick Sirianni, hear that coach talk about, how prepared his team is, how humble they are, the attitude they have, the dedication of the work ethic that they have, and just seeing that now at their only mandatory minicamp of the offseason before they all get back here for training camp, it really lets you know the type of mindset of this football team and how winning the Super Bowl hasn't strayed them from the ultimate goal of winning again. It made me go back and think about A.J. Brown's comments after the Super Bowl about, I thought, that's it. That's it. Huh. Everyone told me this would be amazing. Yeah, it's amazing. For the rest of your life, your first name, the first two words in your name are Super Bowl champion A.J. Brown. Super Bowl champion Jalen Hurts. Super Bowl champion Nick Sirianni. Super Bowl champion Devontae Smith. That's your first name now. Those are your first names. That's pretty cool. That'll, I think, sink in later on. But you know what else will sink in later on? You know what else would be even better than, Super Bowl? Adding another two names. Two-time Super Bowl champion. 3 words? 3 words. Super Bowl champion. Scoozy. Those 5 first names, 2-time Super Bowl champion. That right there. Those would be the names that you want to go by for the rest of your life. So this is the encouragement. This is the motivation. Now you're back in the saddle. You're getting ready for it again. You're amping yourself up. Everyone's getting on the same page. Again, a new offensive coordinator. How do you not just love that? How do you not love that? I absolutely love it. When it comes to Jalen Hurts yesterday, this is the big story as far as I'm concerned. A year ago at this time, Philadelphia Eagles had a new defensive coordinator in Vic Fangio. Philadelphia Eagles had a new offensive coordinator in Kellen Moore. At the end of the year press conference following that horrendous, historic collapse, Nick Sirianni sat there on the dais with Howie Roseman, and he acknowledged that the defensive coordinator was going to come in and be fully in charge of the defense. Makes sense. But then he said the offensive coordinator is going to be completely in charge of the offense. Very different than what we had just heard from Nick Sirianni throughout the year. Even when he gave up play calling to Shane Steichen, he said, I'm doing the game plan, Shane calls the plays. I'm doing the game plan, Shane calls the plays. All right. Well, through the Ben Johnson year, I thought, okay. Brian Johnson year. I've been doing that too much. Brian Johnson year. Brian Johnson was supposed to call the plays. Nick Sirianni was supposed to do the game plan. He had talked about Brian Johnson calling the plays throughout that season. Comes out later that he was a little bit more involved than some people liked. Nick Sirianni was a little bit more involved than some people like in calling plays. But then, didn't say he was doing the game plan. Didn't specify who was calling plays. Simply made the blanket statement that the offensive coordinator will be fully in charge of the offense. Now, Kellen Moore came here 5 years, offensive coordinator, play caller in the league, 2 different organizations. All right. He comes into Philadelphia with experience, so it would make sense. Would it be the same thing with Kevin Patullo? That was my question. 2 questions that I would like to hear answered from the Philadelphia Eagles. One was answered yesterday by Jalen Hurts. The other still has yet to be answered, which is you had Brian Johnson, you have Kevin Patullo 3 years ago. Why did you hire Brian Johnson as the offensive coordinator and play caller over Kevin Patullo? Why You could have hired him then. Why didn't you do that? Well, let's change. And that's not because I don't think Kevin Patullo can do the job. That's curiosity. What has changed? What has he gotten better at? Why is he ready for the position now? Still have yet to hear that answer. The other is, well, Kevin Patullo's never called an offense in the NFL. Kevin Patullo's never called a play in the NFL with any regularity. Never been an offensive coordinator. So does he get the same level of authority to be in charge, completely in charge of the offense that Kellen Moore did? I hadn't heard anybody acknowledge that. Now, again, it's one of those things that I assumed. It's one of those things that I thought to be true. But until you hear from the organization, I can't believe anything. So yesterday, for the first time, Jalen Hurts acknowledged who is completely in charge of the offense when he was asked about Kevin Patullo and adjusting to another new offensive coordinator and play caller.
Coaches always had a say and played a role. Obviously, he's in a different seat now, so he's the final. He gets the final word. He's in charge of the offense, and so I think.
Boom! There it is. And then he goes on to talk about how he has to adjust to, different quarterback coaches and all that stuff. There was a funny point in the press conference yesterday where somebody did say, you 4 different offensive coordinators or whatever. And he's just like, well, I don't count. And I'm like, okay, fair enough. I don't think I'd want to count either if I were you. But Kevin Patullo in charge of the offense. The only other person that we have heard in that same light, with that same responsibility, with that same pull, is Kellen Moore. Now, don't get me wrong. Just like last year, Nick Sirianni called some plays. Nick Sirianni did acknowledge that there would be communication between him and Kellen Moore on what play to be called. And Kevin Patullo apparently had some influence on that. Limited, but some. This is completely different. This is Kevin Patullo calling the offense. This is Kevin Patullo being in charge of the offense, according to your franchise quarterback, Jalen Hurts. I'm in. I believe this is the only way to do it. This shouldn't be a college of coaches calling plays. This shouldn't be a overwhelmingly shared responsibility. Nick has an idea. I'm sure it's going to get called. But make no mistake about it, Kevin Patullo now is running the Philadelphia Eagles offense based on what you're hearing from Jalen Hurts. And the other part you got to hear about it, and I used to refer to this as kind of the trifecta of blame when there was a play we didn't like, a call made that we didn't like. I would look at Nick Sirianni, I'd look at Kellen Moore, and I look at Jalen Hurts. Because Jalen Hurts would often check the play at the line of scrimmage, more often than what we've seen from some quarterbacks here in somewhat recent history. So I found that to be really interesting. A lot of times it looked like the plays Jalen Hurts was checking to, surveying the line of scrimmage, surveying what the defense was giving him, taking what the defense was giving him, putting his players in the best possible position to have success on a given play. He did that quite a bit. The 2 players he really seemed to focus on in those scenarios were Saquon Barkley, obviously, and Dallas Goedert. More of that in the upcoming season. This Eagles team will be just fine no matter who's calling the plays. But I feel very good. I have questions, certainly, but I feel very good about where the Eagles are offensively. Obviously, Saquon Barkley is a big part of that, and having a guy that I think is the second best quarterback in the league in Jalen Hurts running it kind of makes me feel confident about this team going back exactly where they should be going back to, and that's the Super Bowl. So a lot to get into in that regard. Little emergency like thing going on here. Okay. Somebody's ringing my doorbell for no reason. All right. All's good. So I look at everything with Jalen Hurts yesterday, and I just think, all right, this guy has got it. He's in a great position right now. I don't think the Eagles are going to make another in-house hire after the previous in-house hire without thinking that this is really the right in-house hire, the right hire to make in total. So loved what I had to hear. Loved everything that people had to say yesterday. There was another aspect of the game yesterday that they got into, and this is also coming from Jalen Hurts. This had to do with what I alluded to earlier, which is picking your poison. The real interesting thing about the Super Bowl last year is how Saquon Barkley averaged under 3 yards per carry. I think it was 2.2 yards per carry in the Super Bowl. So the Kansas City Chiefs sold out to stop Saquon Barkley. And all that did was go, okay, well, they picked their poison. They don't want Saquon to beat him, so now I got to beat him. That's Jalen Hurts. Well, Jalen Hurts was asked yesterday, I think this was Martin Frank of the Delaware County Times, talking about how teams are going to be gearing up to stop Saquon. How do you make the adjustment to the adjustment?
You know, coaches always had a say and played a role. Obviously, he's in a different seat now, so he's the final. He gets the final word. He's in charge of the offense, and so I think he's been doing a great job of that and what we've been able to do. And on the other side of it, there is a dynamic of adaptability that you have to be able to have and find success regardless of what the leadership looks like, what the voice is, who's in the quarterback room coaching me or who's out there calling plays. And so that's really where I put my energy at, trying to decode these things and kind of figure it out on my terms a little bit and find a way to make it go.
Absolutely love that.
Well, I have to pick their poison. And so
that's the quote I'm going for. Excuse me. Jalen Hurts. This is more so what I was setting up earlier, just about Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley.
Well, I have to pick their poison. And so it's just a matter of going out there and executing. You know, we got to make sure we're in a good position to go do what we're going to do. And then, you know, when someone gets an opportunity to make something happen, make it happen.
Simple as that when it comes to an offense that, yes, is in fact stacked. Speaking of it, I've told you guys many times before that one of the greatest stories in all of sports in the United States of America is you, the Philadelphia fan. You are a very passionate, very caring. All the cliches you want to throw out there are very true about our fan base, with the exception of that we're a bunch of barbarians. I don't feel that one's true. I feel like a lot of fan bases are rabid, okay? But we are really, oh man, people love poking the bear. People love tugging on our cape. It is it's annoying at times, but here's the deal. If people annoy you, Philadelphia, they know you're going to react to it. They know that you're going to give them what is the greatest currency in the world right now, which is attention. You could go back to tabloids in England 100 years ago. Attention. You can go back to the weekly world news at your supermarket. Attention. That was always a big thing. It's nothing new. Manipulated headlines, flashy words. That's all nothing new. That's all the way news has been portrayed, newspapers, whatever. That's nothing new. But it has never been a greater currency, attention, than it is right now. With all podcasts, web shows, TV shows, radio shows, everyone, attention. It's now vital that many eyeballs are out there in the world, that many ears are out there in the world, with the ease of listening or watching right there in your pocket. Attention is the currency. So when people tell you that your Super Bowl MVP, two-time NFC champion quarterback, Jalen Hurts, is only the 10th best quarterback in the NFL, yeah, we're going to react to it. That's going to get our attention. Now, I hate to break it to him, Phil Simms' son, but the vote's already in. None of these lists matter. The league is decided. There is only one quarterback in the NFL that I would consider better than Jalen Hurts, and even that's tough to say considering the ass whooping he just gave him in the Super Bowl, and that's Patrick Mahomes. Yeah, the success that Patrick Mahomes has enjoyed over the last, 8-9 years, right? That it's kind of hard to not go with him. But there is nobody on this list that I am taking over Jalen Hurts, and I'm certainly not holding it against Jalen Hurts for having a wildly stacked offense. Because you know what? When you're on the highest stage, some guys wet the bed. So I'm not going to look at Justin Herbert, who, by the way, Jalen Hurts at number 10, Baker Mayfield, who I feel like I respect more than most at 9, is redonkulous. Justin Herbert, C.J. Stroud, Matthew Stafford, Jaden Daniels. This list right now, so that's 5 and 10. Jalen Hurts at 10, 10 to 5. 5 is Jaden Daniels. This list makes me really just, from the deepest part of my stomach, just want to yell from the gut. Shut up, nerd. That's what it makes me want to say.
Though you don't understand the complexities of the quarterback position and what you got around you. You can't do.
Seriously, winning is what matters above all else. And I'm not going to hold it against Jalen Hurts that he does have, yes, a stacked offense, because you look at other what is like Mike Evans? Does Mike Evans suck? Is Mike Evans terrible? Baker Mayfield throwing in that? Yeah, it's pretty good. It's a pretty good target to have. There's one guy that really does make it all go. And it's the decision-making of Jalen Hurts that makes his team go. And guess what? He's cracked the code on playing quarterback in the NFL. Just doesn't have to turn the football over. He needs to make big plays. When he needs to make big plays, when they're there, he takes them. I don't care what you're talking about when you're talking about Devontae Smith or A.J. Brown or Saquon Barkley. I'm not slighting Jalen Hurts for that, because I acknowledge what a huge cog in the wheel Jalen Hurts is to this offense. And if he is doing what he's supposed to be doing with a stacked offense, well, I'm certainly not going to be ranking him at number 10. I'm going to go, oh, a quarterback that has these weapons and he uses them to have a blowout in the Super Bowl, to have a blowout in the NFC Championship game. I'm not going to hold that against him. So because he's battle-tested and successful, he's not as good. That doesn't make any damn sense. Now, if you want to talk about playing the quarterback position the way you would play it in the 40s or something, then all right, I guess that's relevant to you. It's not to me. I'm looking at the quarterback position right now and saying, who's the winner? And a guy that has a big piece of that winning is Jalen Hurts. Before he had Vic Fangio as his defensive coordinator, was still in a Super Bowl. Before he had Saquon Barkley as his running back, he was still in a Super Bowl. He was still an NFC champion. I ain't going to slight him for it. I'm going to acknowledge the greatness. And putting him at 10 is insanely disrespectful. Insanely. Oh, well, if you put CJ Stroud in this offense, what would he do? Well, I don't know. He might wet the bed when it matters most. So because he doesn't have as strong an offense, you're automatically just going to assume that he's better than Jalen? I don't know. That's just stupid. Baker Mayfield, really, with Baker Mayfield, really. I like, now I got to say bad things about a quarterback I really like. And I mean, he has beaten up the Eagles, but I don't. The Eagles have also beaten the pants off them 2 years ago. Unfortunately, not this year. Look, I told you guys this was going to happen. I said after the Super Bowl, I said, so help me God, if one list comes out that has Justin Herbert over Jalen Hurts, and here we are, Justin Herbert 2 slots better. I look at it as silly, and now that it's happened, I laugh at it because I expected it to happen, no matter how dumb it was going to be. A two-time conference champion, a guy that was the runner-up for crying out loud to Patrick Mahomes for the MVP 3 years ago, just beat Patrick Mahomes in that Super Bowl, and still only the 10th on this stupid, no good, horrible Phil Simms' son list. I'm not going to let it make me angry. I'm just going to laugh at it because it's just that dumb. It's just that dumb. So, hey, look, here's the great thing about it. Everyone sees it. Jalen Hurts certainly sees it. Saquon Barkley certainly sees it. Nick Sirianni sees it. Kevin Patullo sees it. Howie Roseman sees it. A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. Everyone sees it. Motivation. I don't look. I guess I do understand the people that look at haters or doubters as people that look at it as motivating. But there's also something alluring about a athlete who just looks at it and goes, "Well, that person's an idiot," and then just goes on with their life and keeps working hard. But Jalen Hurts seems to thrive on it, and there's the famous clip of Jordan Mailata in the Super Bowl with him just saying, "I love when they doubt you. I love when they doubt you." Hey, if it results in another Super Bowl championship, then allow it to doubt. Allow it to doubt. Hey. Oh, wait. How did I not? Oh, man. I really am a big, dumb idiot. I said I was going to do this when the list came out, and he was slighted. I didn't do it. But thank goodness I kept it in the drops here. My apologies to the people on the podcast. This is going to be visual. Jalen Hurts' only response that he needs for the Chris Sims list. You're welcome. Super Bowl trophy, MVP trophy, smiling Jalen Hurts. All right, moving on. What was that?
That's pretty dope.
There we go. Sitting down for the list. Okay, there we go. Hey, your Philadelphia Phillies were playing baseball yesterday, and it was not good. They blew 3 different leads against the Pirates in game 1 of that, or game 2 of that series. It was game 1 of that series. They blew 2 leads yesterday. That was not fun. I would appreciate greatly if they didn't do that again. Mick Abel did not look particularly sharp in yesterday's game. Some of those put-away pitches definitely weren't there. He had 3 walks in the game, which you just don't see that. You haven't seen that from him at the major league level. A lot of struggles in that one. Dansby Swanson. I will say this about yesterday. There was some baseballs hit that I am just still shocked left the ballpark. Dansby Swanson's home run certainly comes to mind. Ian Happ's second home run, I know. That was another one that I was surprised left the ballpark. His first one, actually, a little surprised. Curveball up in the zone that he just put a good swing on, and that was that. But all in all, just not a great day for Mick Abel. I don't think he looked terrible, but he didn't look good. 89 pitches to get through 4 innings of work, allowing 3 solo home runs. Yeah, it's kind of hard to take up the argument for him yesterday during the game. But Swanson took a fastball from him up in the zone, 418 feet. I thought it was a fly ball to maybe 2 steps in front of the warning track to Brandon Marsh in center field. It wasn't. It was 418 feet to center field. Just missed Monty's angle in center field. Then he struck out Bush on 3 pitches right after that. He walked Horner on 5 pitches, then got the fielder's choice by Shaw in the second inning, and then got McGuire to fly out to left field. Phillies able to pick him up with the Max Kepler 2-run home run. Great to see that. That was a 2-1 Phillies lead at that point. Unfortunately, Ian Happ came back with that home run that was 384 feet on a 2-2 curveball up in the zone, tied it up at 2-2. Then you also have Bush step up to the plate. He hit the mammoth home run, 442 feet to make it a 3-2 Cubs lead. When it rained, it poured yesterday. 5th inning, Phillies were able to have that 2-run single by Alec Bohm to make it a 4-3 game. And then the 6th inning off Taijuan Walker, that pitch I described to Ian Happ, a 1-1 cutter thrown in on his hands. He just slips right back, golfs it out of the park. I don't know. I would assume 384, 390 feet, maybe. Ugh. Phillies had taken the lead on the 2-run single by Bohm in the 5th, and then once Ian Happ hit the second home run of the game for the 2-run shot, it was 5-4. Phillies obviously never took the lead after that. 8th inning, they ran into some trouble. Joe Ross was pitching. The thing I was going to get into in the 6th inning before the home run off Taijuan Walker. I don't know what happened here, but McGuire's at the plate, hits a grounder to Bryson Stott. McGuire ain't fleet of foot, people. And Bryson Stott flips it to Trey Turner. Trey Turner throws it to first. They can't convert the double play. Would have been an inning-ending double play. Phillies would have still been up 4-3. Instead, McGuire somehow mustered up some speed, made it to first base to beat out the double play ball. Next batter, 3 pitches later, Ian Happ hits the 2-run home run. All Cubbies after that. 8th inning, Joe Ross's pitching gives up the single. 2nd inning, he's out there, by the way. Horner gives up the single to Horner, gets Shaw to line out to shortstop, and a little humpback liner. McGuire steps up, gets the 2-run, or gets the RBI double, makes it a 6-4 game. Walks Happ. Ross goes out. Hernandez comes in, gives up an RBI single to Tucker, an RBI single to Suzuki. It's now an 8-4 game, and that's the way, of course, it would end. No silver linings for me. Brandon Marsh had to leave the game midway through after stealing second base. Originally was called out on a very hard tag by Dansby Swanson, that jerk. Left the game after it had a little elbow inflammation, I believe they called it, after the game. So he had to leave the game. That's not good. Johan Rojas went in to play center field, as one would assume. Really wanted the Phillies to build off that 11-inning affair, but they didn't. They got Jesus Luzardo on the hill today against former Phillies prospect Ben Brown, who I believe they shipped over to Chicago for the David Robertson deal. They have an interesting situation here as well with Jesus Luzardo. 20 earned runs over his last 2 starts, 23 earned runs over his last 3 starts. Allegedly tipping pitches. They got in the lab. They worked on it. Hopefully they ironed out those issues. Hopefully. We'll find out today. I said after his start against the Blue Jays that I do believe this is a giant blip on the radar. Not a small blip, a giant blip on the radar. 20 earned runs in 2 starts is kind of difficult. That sucks. I think he's better than that. I think he's a lot more of what we saw earlier in the year. I do have it in the back of my mind that maybe he's just tired. Maybe he's going through a dead arm period. Maybe it's got nothing to do with tipping pitches. Maybe it's got everything to do with just having a dead arm. But my one ask is that he gets rid of the cornrows. He gets rid of the hair in general. That's my one request. Bryce Harper was struggling, buzzed the head, one of the hottest hitters in the lineup before he was hurt. Jesus Luzardo struggling, or Nick Sirianni struggling, buzzes his head, goes to the Super Bowl, wins Super Bowl. That's pretty good. Parade down Broad Street. Jesus Luzardo struggles, cornrows. I said after that start, what's he thinking? The only alternative to the haircut you originally had is buzzing your head. This is Philadelphia. This is how we do it. Okay? Thank you. Very much looking forward to Jesus Luzardo. Hopefully go out today and dominate. No. All right. Let's get into the chat. Oh, 1 second. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you about the Game Time app. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use promo code Farzy, and get $20 off your first purchase on the Game Time app. Want to go to the game, the concert, the comedy show? Download the Game Time app, create an account, use promo code Farzy, get $20 off your first purchase with the Game Time app. Game Time app has it covered also with Game Time Picks, which lets you filter out all the fluff and get right down to it. The best seats at the best prices on the Game Time app. So Game Time app's where it's at. Make sure you use promo code Farzy. Terms apply. How about PHL Sports Nation, Philadelphia Sports Nation, enhancing your Philadelphia sports fan experience across all social media and blogs? That's phlsportsnation.com. Let's get into the chat check. Danny Prado, what's going on? Sean Kilrain, what's popping? Jeremy Von Skyver, good morning. Happy Wednesday. Did you happen to go back and look at Mick Abel's face? I did. Yeah, no, I don't. Maybe he did. Yeah, not a lot of sleep last night. Were they popping champagne in the clubhouse after an 11-inning win? Jeremy Von Skyver. Making progress now with Chris Sims. Yeah, all it takes is a Super Bowl championship and a Super Bowl MVP. A second Super Bowl appearance, a Super Bowl win, and a Super Bowl MVP. It's all it takes. It's all it takes. Ryan, good morning, Farzy and friends. Wine on 22 losers. There you go. Yeah, Jeremy, I don't know why everyone loves Justin. Like, I feel like Justin Herbert is a very good quarterback, but everyone just gives him accolades that he has yet to earn. You got to win at the NFL level. You have to overcome at the NFL level. Haven't seen that. April. Good morning, April. What's going on? Sean Gillespie, what's going on? How you doing, buddy? I saw that. I think I don't know if they put that up or not last night, Sean, but I did see that. I think it was during last night's game. least amount of errors in all of Major League Baseball. Thank goodness. Because I can't take more Trey Turner boots. You know what I mean? At shortstop, especially when the offense is struggling as it has been. William Stark's going on. Chris Sims is a victim of too many psychic wars going on in his head. That's funny. Anthony Motti, what's going on? Mady? Anthony, what's going on? Phillies need a spark, a trade, call up Crawford, something. Bullpen is a mess, and we're slowly getting closer to a wild card loss. That's kind of where I have the Phillies right now, losing in the wild card. Sean Gillespie, Chris Sims just trying to stay relevant. Oh, how about that? Oh, well, first up, Rizzy. What's up, Rizzy? Yo to you. Sean Kilrain. Nick is making his 231st consecutive start tonight. That moves him past Jimmy Rollins. And Nick now has the longest streak for the Phillies since Pete Rose back in the 80s. Played 350 consecutive games. Hot damn. I didn't realize it was that many. God bless him. Jesus or Jesus M. I don't know. Hurts not a top 5 quarterback. Well, see, again, they already voted. I'm sorry. He's top 2. It's what's out there. Everything else is fantasy. I feel like I've heard comedians talk about this before about a critic saying they weren't funny, and they'll be, at the auditorium, the stadium, whatever, be like, well, that wasn't funny. And no, it's like, I'm sorry, everyone laughed. It was fun. Like, it's already decided. We already voted. You missed the vote. Jeremy, how the hell is Jaden Daniels above Jalen Hurts? Don't know. Jesus M. Hurts is more of an 8 quarterback. Number 8 quarterback. Yeah. They already voted. I really hate to do this because it's such a wind out of the sails of the people that disrespect Jalen Hurts. Yeah, that's where we're at. Sorry, the vote's already in. Trenton Wright, what's going on? Can't watch, or is that supposed to be? Can't wait to watch the Commanders fans go back into hiding after they missed the playoffs this year. Isn't Jane Daniels like 30 years old? Oh, man, Jeremy. Oh, I even forgot he existed. No, wait, I was just looking at the Iron Pigs numbers, and I saw Cal Stevenson. I think he was leading off, and I was like, oh, God, I forgot he existed. What? Wait a minute. Hold on a minute. Tommy? Hey, cuz, I'm the current NFL AQB's ability to run the ball cannot be understated. Jalen Hurts is the best, if not second best, running the ball. Easily elevates him to an elite level of quarterback. Tommy, you out in San Diego? Where are you at, buddy? Where are you at, cousin? By the way, we have like 5 Tommy Farzettas. I think there's one of them that would be up watching the show right now. That's a great way to put it, Tommy. Doesn't look the way we might. It just doesn't look the way we might be used to looking at it. I agree. Oh, Huntington Beach! Atta guy. What's up, cuz? The quarterback haven't won nothing but want to talk about a Super Bowl winning quarterback. Thank you, Domes. There we go. Right. Can't measure intangibles, so put Hurts at 25 and let's win more Super Bowls with our crappy quarterback. There we go. I'm with you. Thanks to everybody in the chat, including my little cousin Thomas. Look at you. Oh, the East Coast, he's Tommy. West Coast, he's Thomas. My man. Great to see you in here, bud. Trenton Wright. Chris Sims would be a homeless bum if he didn't have his daddy's name. That's funny. And you know what's funny? I actually like Chris Sims. I just think his list is attention-grabbing cockamamie horse poo. There you go. Thanks, everybody in the chat. You guys are great, as per usual. Hey, I got to tell you guys today, before I get to the morning rush, your boy over here is going to be an athlete today. At least try to do an impression of an athlete. I'll be participating. I think this is my 5th one. I'm a one-time champion. I am playing in the NRG charity flag football game at the NovaCare Complex today at 11 o'clock. And I'll be competing to win, I believe it's $36,000 for Big Brothers, Big Sisters. So I really look forward to that. I found out Pat Gallen, my man Pat Gallen from CBS 3, is going to be on my squad. I believe he's like a 5-time MVP of this. So I look forward to just riding his coattails. My man Buster is going to be there as well. Look forward to playing with him. Again, we were on the same team again last year. Me and him and Casey Boy were on the same team last year from MMR. So look forward to getting the band back together when it comes to getting another championship at the NRG charity flag football game. Other than that, Jesus Luzardo's pitching at 105 today against Ben Brown. That's the other game that's going on in South Philly, not nearly as important. But yeah, be at the NovaCare Complex today and look to have some fun. So thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. You guys are great, as per usual. Appreciate you guys checking it out. And I'll be with you guys coming up for 76ers Daily Podcast with Keith Pompey coming up later today. Then back with you guys for the Phillies postcast following the 105 start time against the Cubs, where the Phillies look to get the W for the series against the Cubs. That would make us feel pretty damn good. Take 4 out of 6 against the Cubs. I like that. It's a pretty damn good baseball team. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Just one more time. Thing of beauty. Have a great rest of your day, everybody. See ya.